This is a report on the findings and analysis of the financial year 2022-2023 that has been organized by the Institute of Economic Affairs together with the Institute of Social Accountability, that is TISA, and also the National Democratic Institute. And they've been talking about how the government spent the 3.37 trillion shillings that was allocated in 2022-2023 financial year, whether the government spent that money correctly and whether various agencies, departments and ministries also received the amount allocated for that financial year. And to break it down for us, we have John Mutua, who is an economist at the Institute of Economic Affairs, who will tell us how the absorption was when it comes to this budget and also various allocations in different departments. Joining us right here, John, I would like you to tell us from where you sit and according from the analysis that you have done and from the report that you have shown us, what are the trends that you show that you saw in the 2022-2023 financial year?
Thank you. So what we did was basically share some insights as the Institute of Economic Affairs on our analysis of the budget implementation report that was generated by the Office of the Control of Budget for the financial year 2022-2023. We also provided a few insights for the first quarter financial year 2023-2024. Now, in terms of trends and insights, what we see is obviously a recurring challenge from the big picture perspective of the national government struggling to execute its budget. So like in the past years, the recurring issue is of underspending. Whereas the financial year 2022-23, there was an improvement in terms of overall expenditure spending or performance, which was about 95%. Compared to the previous year. So that's yes, an improvement, but indeed is a recurring challenge of underspending. And what this signifies is an effect, obviously. This has an effect on service delivery. And when you analyze it deeper, or when you undertake an in-depth analysis by breaking down expenditure into recurring and development, the challenge of underspending is actually more pronounced on the development expenditure side. So we've seen that almost 20% of the funds that were budgeted for development development expenditure was not spent by the end of last year, June 2023. So what that means is obviously that some of the projects and there are projects across from education sector, which was one of the culprits, education sector, some in the infrastructure sector, some in the general economic and commercial sector, where you have the Ministry of Trade, Tourism, and so on, MSMEs and cooperatives. It means that some of the projects that were planned will not be executed or were not executed. So whenever you see stalled projects, whether it's some classrooms that were not completed, extensions of Kenya Medical Training College, labs, tuition blocks, as well as roads and other infrastructure like dams and so on. Incomplete or stalled project is actually a symptom of under absorption of funds.
Okay. Yeah. So you saw this across all sectors, all key sectors that are critical to the Kenyans out there?
So what I mentioned is that for the entire development budget, about 19% of those funds were not spent. When you break it down by sectors, there are about 10 sectors of the economy. This challenge is more pronounced in the sector of education, public administration. Then you also have the general economic and commercial affairs. And within general economic and commercial affairs, you have the ministries of tourism, trade, and cooperative and MSME. So it means programs and projects within those ministries, some programs and projects were not executed optimally or fully. Yes, so that's that.
So what are your recommendations here?
Delivery was actually affected in in those sectors.
Okay.
Yeah.
From your report, what are the various recommendations that you are?
So in terms of recommendation, the key what attributes under absorption or lack of uptake of budget resources is obviously delays in disbursement of resources to the different ministries, departments, and agencies. So what the reports show and what our analysis revealed is that most of the disbursements or releases of funds, almost 40% of the funds were released in the fourth quarter. So what that means is that these ministries, departments, and agencies had very little time to be able to utilize those resources. Yeah. And one can trace the delays to release of funds to revenue collection or performance in revenue collection. So in terms of recommendation, one of the things that ministries should do, obviously led by the National Treasury, is to ensure that they align the request of resources to the way revenue is collected. So revenue is not collected evenly across the quarters. We've seen most of the revenue is collected in quarter 2, that is between October and December, as well as in quarter 4. That's between April and June, when most people are filing their returns. So requests for resources and the plans should be aligned to revenue collection patterns. That's number one. Number two, obviously, in terms of revenue, because revenue shortfalls is what leads to whatever. So there's need to have modest revenue projection, but at the same time ensure that we seal, in terms of reforms, improve revenue administration, seal leakages. But then generally there are a few things that the government is doing which will bear fruits in the medium term, like the introduction of national tax policy. Once that is approved, it will lead to predictability.
Okay. I know this is a conversation we can have for the longest time, and I will be giving you more details during the 9 p.m. bulletin on the analysis of the 2022-2023 financial year budget. Back to you in studio, Mchuma.